exactly. You can do that. And I
Yeah.
think it's also understanding that the perception that somebody else has on you isn't necessarily a reality. That's
No.
somebody's opinion. That's
Mm-hmm.
somebody's perception. They see one part of you. They don't see the whole story.
Yep.
And it's just learning to not make what that person's trying to say about you necessarily to be true or to internalize that.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Infinite Abilities Podcast. I am your host, Nick Earhart, and we are here to encourage each other to find our own unique abilities. Let's go. All right, everyone. So today we have Michelle, and she is all about helping people. So I can't wait for her to share her story and tell you all about what she does. So, Michelle, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, I would love to. Well, my name is Michelle Steiner. I live in Pennsylvania with my husband Ron and our two cats, Jack and Sparrow. I am a writer, a speaker, and photographer, and I'm a paraeducator. I work in a school with students who have disabilities and some who don't.
Mm-hmm.
And I also have a learning disability myself. And I have a blog called Michelle's Mission where I write about life with having a learning disability and I get to feature my photography as well.
That's amazing. So, I love what you're doing because, you have a learning disability yourself. So you understand what it's like, but you're taking what you've learned over the years and what you still work on to help other people. So I think that is really powerful.
Thank you so much.
Of course, of course. And when you're working with students, what are some of the things that you help them with?
Well, a lot of things that'll help them with is work that the teacher, the lesson that she might have presented, and maybe I'll have a student that doesn't quite understand that. Now, the
Yep.
only thing I can't help them with is math, and they all know or soon will soon find out. Do not ask me to help you with math because I can't do that.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, it's helping with the other assignments. It could be reading tests. It could be going over spelling words with students
Mm-hmm.
and getting them on board with that. Sometimes that can be hesitation can go along with that because they think, oh, I can't do this, and I just really try to gently encourage them. Well, we can do this or we can improve.
Mm-hmm.
I also help them with their backpacks with organizing that as well. And because sometimes they come in and they might have papers and every other folder except for the one that's correct. So we kind of go in and do that. And I also teach them how to advocate. I think that's one of the biggest
Mm.
things that I have with my students because a lot of my students, they're going to have a disability whenever they leave school. They're going to graduate, they're going to go on with their lives, but their disability is what's going to stay. So
Yeah.
I really try hammering that into them that you have to speak up for yourself and you need to ask for things. And I get that chance to really encourage that. And this year I'm
Mm-hmm.
working with seventh graders, and they're just starting to, some of them, be aware of what their disability is and
Yeah.
how to advocate for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love that you're helping them advocate for
Thank
themselves
you.
because that is actually, I think, one of the hardest things about having a disability. I have cerebral palsy myself,
Mhm.
and learning to speak up for yourself and let people know like what you need or how they can do some things differently, so then you can, let's say, do everything as close to everyone else as possible. You know, that's one thing about me is growing up, I basically tried to hide my disability. And let me tell you, this is not something you can hide. There's no way. So, once I got through that, I learned like it's okay to speak up. It's okay to ask for help. People are more than willing to help. It's amazing. So just speak up. It's gonna make your life a lot easier than if you don't. So I love that you're helping people with that. And in school, like a lot of the teachers are willing just to offer you a hand without you having to ask. But
Right.
once you get out of school, then it's a whole different story. Now you're kind of
Mhm.
on your own, and people don't usually just walk up and be like, "Hey, can I help you with that?" Sometimes they do, but not always. So yeah, I think that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, that is definitely so true. I mean, my parents were my greatest advocate for me whenever I was in school.
Hmm.
But whenever I
Same.
got out on my own, that was up to me to go up to my professors and to tell them that I needed help with something, especially when I got to college. And I could
Hmm.
also relate with the wanting to hide the disability. I wanted to do that so many years ago. And it is easier for me to hide a lot of the aspects of having one because people can't necessarily see a learning disability, it's hidden.
Yeah.
But hiding it and pretending like everything's all right doesn't make it go away and certainly doesn't solve
No.
the problem or make it easier. It's being able to speak up and to be able to say what you need in a conducive fashion.
And I also believe, when you try to hide it, you're
Hmm.
technically lying to yourself because you're
Yeah.
not accepting who you are. I know that for me, I didn't accept myself as who I actually am until about 3, maybe 4 years ago. Like I was like not really in denial. Like I can't deny that I have cerebral palsy,
Hmm.
but I didn't accept it. I would say things like, "Why did God do this to me?"
Right.
Now I said, "Oh, God gave me cerebral palsy because it's my superpower to go out and help more people." So that's how I look at it
Hmm.
now. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's turning that in there. It's turning that what it could be perceived as a negative into something positive. And
Hmm.
I can remember going through a lot of that myself. What good could ever come out of having a disability? And I just find it amazing that God has shown me that there are so much good that's come out of it that wouldn't have come if it was the case that I didn't have one. The empathy, the compassion, and then just certain situations, and it's just like, wow, that really worked out in my favor, and I didn't think it
Hmm.
could.
Exactly. And I gotta ask, what made you want to go on this path of helping others?
I think that just with helping others was I wanted to do it because I've had people that have helped me in my life, and I've
Hmm.
also had people that haven't always helped or were more discouraging. And I wanted to, what I really want to do with anybody that I come in contact with that I help, whether it's through sharing my story or writing or being in the classroom with the student, is I want to make them become empowered. I want them to feel that having a disability isn't a bad thing and get them that early start that I wish somebody would have given me a long time ago.
I love that. And another thing that I think you're doing is, you're empowering kids. So
Hmm.
a lot of times, as children with disabilities, we get told that we can't do certain things.
Hmm.
And, I say it over and over on this podcast. The day that told myself, all right, every time I say I can't, I'm going to change it to how can I? And that
Yep.
just opens
Hmm.
up the doors and it's just like, all right, let's figure this out. And sometimes that's just asking somebody for help, and that's okay. So with what you're doing, I feel like a lot of these kids that you're working with, they're gonna, still get told that they can't do things by doctors or teachers or hey,
Hmm.
even their parents. But I think you're helping them with the mindset so much that they're gonna go, yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna figure it out myself, you know? So I think that's so powerful.
Right. And I offer a lot of my students choices in life. I
Hmm.
might have a student that might tell me, why do we have to learn history? Or why do we have to do this? And rather than give them all these reasons on why we have to, I often tell them, well, you may not use this in your life when you're an adult. That's your choice, what you decide, what you use. We're here to give you the information.
Yeah.
And I can give them resources sometimes if we have a student that comes up and they say, oh, I want to be a teacher someday. I can say, oh,
Hmm.
I know this college has a great program and they have disability accommodations. So I can be encouraging. And I like how you say, whenever you say that someone says you can't do it, you think, well, how can I? Because I had a lot of people who told me that I couldn't go to college because of my disability, or I couldn't get my
Mm-hmm.
bachelor's degree. And what I had to learn was I had to use that exact same strategy. Okay, how can I do this? How can I make this work? What is going to be the best decision for me? And with having a disability, it may not look like my peers that were going to school at times. I might have had to make some different choices in the major that I chose and some of the classes. But it was like, okay, it can be possible. Just
Mm-hmm.
how do we make it that way?
Yep, exactly. I'm right there with you. You know, you can make anything possible. I
Yep.
believe that. Like there's a way to do everything.
Yep.
So,
Exactly.
you know, I want to talk to you a little bit about
Hmm.
when you were growing up. You know, when you were at the age of like the students that you're currently helping. You know, what was it that like stands out for you? You know, it can be negative or positive. You know, we all go through some hard times, but when we talk about them, it really helps others.
Right. I can remember those years in middle school being starting to get easier for me academically. I still
Mm-hmm.
struggled a little bit with definitely math has always been the big thing, and but I was in more regular ed classes and I was starting to do a little bit better. But
Mm-hmm.
socially, things were getting a lot harder for me. I always struggled socially too. I can just remember when I was in elementary school, it was, well, you weren't invited to my birthday party. But as I went through school, a lot of the peer groups became more defined. And I just
Mm-hmm.
didn't fit in with any of them. And I just really felt like, okay, well, where do I belong here? I have this disability. It's making me stand. I thought it stood out like a sore thumb, so I can understand where a lot of my students were telling me I hate going into resource or learning support because everybody knows that I have this. So I know what that's
Mm-hmm.
like. I know the stigma that carries with it. And one of the things that really helped me, especially when I got up to high school and the bullying really got bad, was I started to hang out with some kids that were from an art program, a faith based one. It was just a school district away, and these kids didn't know who I was. I did. I was able to
Mm-hmm.
shed that reputation of being the outcast, and I was with other kids that had the same interests too, and I
Yeah.
found acceptance, and that really helped me, especially when I was being bullied in school. And then whenever I
Mm-hmm.
started to transition out of that group, I found a writing group for adults, and I started hanging out with them, and they were also involved with the right influence and with writing, and they became my friends. And 20 some years later, we still meet every Saturday, once a month on
Mm-hmm.
Saturdays to talk about our writing, and we're in each other's lives. And I just think that those are the things that really help, is finding your community, your tribe is definitely one of them. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's also knowing what you're good at. Because when
Mm-hmm.
I focus on the things I can do and I enjoy doing, I am so much more empowered than when I sit around and think about, oh, I can't do math or I'm not able to drive.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, I love that you talk about, you know, finding your people. And
Mm-hmm.
that's really cool because that really goes along with, you know, entrepreneurship a lot. You know,
Mm-hmm.
this podcast is a lot about entrepreneurs, and you know that's one thing that I've been focused on is like get around the people that have the same mindset, same interests, and
Mm-hmm.
that you know want to help me succeed. And the same goes for when you're a child. Like find the
Mm-hmm.
people that you enjoy being around and that enjoy you being around them.
Right.
You know. So yeah, I think that's amazing, amazing. And then you know, I know you talked about middle school and bullies. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you got any bull, wow, bullying tip? I can't believe that word so hard. Any tips for people that are getting bullied? How about that?
Those things that I think if you're getting bullied is just trying to look for ways that are really subtle. I
Mm-hmm.
can remember I had a student that I was working with, and she was saying that people were picking on her at lunch. And I said, well, we can go report it if you want, which she did. But I said, before we do that, I said, why don't you go find a different place to sit at lunch with some
Mm-hmm.
different people? And if those girls come up to you and ask you, well, why aren't you sitting with me? Just say, oh, I'm just trying out a different group, because sometimes people might want a reaction. And sure
Mm-hmm.
enough, they did. And I just said, oh, she's just looking for some different places to sit at, that sort of thing. I think that's the big thing, too.
Mm-hmm.
I do also think reporting, if it is a really serious thing as well, we definitely want to report that so somebody's not getting hurt. But I think a lot
Yeah.
of times it's learning how to handle that, because what a lot of people don't understand is there's always going to be bullies. It's not, sadly, it just does not end when you graduate from high school. You're always going to
No.
have somebody. So I think it's learning how to deal
Mm-hmm.
with that. And I
Yep.
really didn't get good at that until my junior year. I had this girl that picked on me all the way throughout school, and she was threatening me. And I was seeing an older guy at the time. He said, you know, I really think she's just trying to get under your skin. And thankfully, that's all
Mm-hmm.
she was trying to do. And one day she was really picking on me, and I walked right past her, and she was saying all this stuff. And I looked at her and I said, oh, that's nice. Have a good day. And the
Yep.
incredulous look on her face was amazing because it wasn't bothering me.
Yep.
And I was just like, okay, but I also had that experience of being accepted and being loved, to know what the difference was between somebody
Mm-hmm.
who was definitely picking on me and somebody that really did care. So I think it's learning
Yeah.
that. And also just finding, like as I said before, just finding those people that do love you and do appreciate
Mm-hmm.
you, and do think of you as a friend, and really investing your time in that, rather than people in life that don't.
Yep. I like that you talked about, just don't give the bully attention.
Yeah.
Don't give
Mm-hmm.
them the reaction that they're looking for. And it might not happen the first time, the second time, or the third time, but eventually they're just gonna get bored of you and leave you alone.
Yep.
So,
Well, yep. And find somebody else.
yeah, unfortunately,
Sadly.
yes, but hey, at least it's not you. And one thing that worked for me growing up is, you know, I would get bullied, and then like the next time that I encountered that person, I would just make a joke about myself before they had a chance,
Yeah.
and
True.
it
Yeah.
throws them off, and they're just like, okay. It's like, I got to a point where it's like, you can't say anything to me that
Yeah.
I haven't heard before, so
Mm-hmm.
you just gotta learn to just brush it off and just let it
Yeah.
go, you know, and
Exactly. Yep.
hey, it can be fun just to, I don't think it's like good for your mindset sometimes to make fun of yourself, but hey, if it gets you through school and it keeps the bullies away, I think that's okay. You can focus on regaining your positive mindset after school. you know?
Exactly. You can do that. And I
Yeah.
think it's also understanding that the perception that somebody else has on you isn't necessarily a reality. That's
No.
somebody's opinion. That's
Mm-hmm.
somebody's perception. They see one part of you. They don't see the whole story.
Yep.
And it's just learning to not make what that person's trying to say about you necessarily to be true, or to internalize that.
And I kind of want to bounce off that a little bit because
Hmm.
I've learned a lot about mindset, and
Yeah.
my mindset coach or mentor, he talks about people can't like offend you, like
Mhm.
actually offend you unless you believe it's true.
Yep.
So if you
Hmm.
get offended, you should stop and think. And I recommend journaling.
Yep.
Journal about that and see what you
Hmm.
come up with. Ask yourself, why is this making me feel this way? Is there any truth to this? Like just figure out why it affects you, because more than likely it's not actually true, and your emotions are just getting in the way.
Right, and that is so true as with writing. That's always been a big source of healing for me.
Mm-hmm.
There
Yep.
have been situations where I might have had people in my life, and everyone said, "Oh, don't say anything about that," or or say anything. But whenever I would write a story and I put that person as a character, I got to say what I wanted to that person through my
Yep.
story. And I was able to forgive people because my voice was heard, and there wasn't anybody saying, oh, I wouldn't say that, or you might hurt that person. Now,
Hmm.
I didn't tell that to that person's face, but I wrote it in my story and I got that out and I felt a lot better about myself in the situation.
Yep, writing is so powerful.
Yep,
Look, it's
exactly.
incredible. I love it. And what are a few of the things that you've written that people can check out?
Sure. I have a blog called Mrs. Michelle's Mission, or Michelle's Mission, where I write about life with a learning disability, and you can find that at www.mrsmichellesmission.com. I also have articles that have been published on various sources, the Mighty, Nonverbal Learning Project, and I also have had two anthologies that I've had a couple stories published in as well. The first one was Rediscovering Your Story, and that's for purchase on Amazon. And I also have one from Gnashing Teeth Publications about the baggage you carry, and I wrote about the
Mm,
baggage of having a learning disability.
amazing. All right, everyone, go check out her books and her blog because I know that they are amazing. And
Thank you.
um, m- my slogan is "Your abilities are infinite." What does that mean to you?
I believe that the abilities that somebody have, it's never ending. I mean, it's one thing that you'll be able to do. There's so many possibilities to problems, and I often think with
Hmm.
learning disabilities, that's a big one. I can't cure having a disability, but there's always a way or always a solution to be able to solve the situation at hand.
Yep, I believe in turning every problem into an opportunity.
Yes.
So I love that. Michelle, this has been incredible. Like, you're so intelligent, you know what you're talking about, you're helping so many people, and just keep it up. Like, people like us, we're really out there to help more people. So, this is really awesome. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. If you enjoyed this show, please go ahead and share it on your Instagram story and tag me in the Nick Your Heart. Also, go ahead and share it anywhere else that you see fit because the only way that I can grow this is by you guys sharing it. I don't sell anything on here. I don't have any sponsors, so let's just get it out there by word of mouth and help more people. Alright, everyone, remember your abilities are infinite.